I think it goes without saying at this point, this is very evident, very observable, that the Christian fascists, a.k.a. the Republican Party, is interested in killing us. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Their economic policies are designed to benefit the 1/100th of 1% economically in this country, who have gathered in most of the income gains over the past 10, 15 years. Their educational policies are designed to keep people stupid. Their policies of economic development are designed, once again, to help the extremely wealthy. Their healthcare policies are designed to cause people to die, including the incursion into otherwise personal choices, personal freedom, personal privacy, such as the laws that are being passed to take away from women their right to make their own decisions about their bodies. Democrats, on the other hand, are trying to expand life for people in this country, politically, economically, educationally, where it concerns public health. So for me, the quickest way to identify Republicans from Democrats is simply Republicans constitute the pro-death party, the Christian fascists. That is a pro-death party. And the Democrats are pro-life. Okay? You agree? No? Let me give you an example of what the Democrats are trying to do with this $3.5 trillion social policy bill that Democrats began drafting this week, Monday, yesterday, Labor Day. And this bill would touch virtually every American at every point in our lives, from conception to old age. Is that a bad thing, or is that a good thing? Huh? Let's take a look. Do you want to take a look? I got some help from Jonathan Weissman at the New York Times. But here's the deal. When these committees meet this week to begin formally drafting this social policy plan of Biden's and the Democrats in Congress, most of the Democrats in Congress, the Democrats will be undertaking the most significant expansion of our so-called safety net since the war on poverty during the Johnson years in the 1960s. And they are devising legislation that would touch virtually every American's life, from conception to the possible infirmity or unavoidable infirmity that we all reach during old age. According to the New York Times, passage of this bill, and I think we're all familiar with the fact that it would spend as much as $3.5 trillion, but that's over the next decade. Passage of the bill is not a done deal. Joe Biden has staked much of his domestic legacy and his presidency on this bill's enactment. And he's going to need the vote of every single Democrat in the Senate and virtually everyone in the House to get this passed. Good luck with that, right? These two Democratic senators, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, are saying they would not accept such a costly plan. So, as the Times points out, getting this bill enacted will challenge Democratic unity like nothing has since the terrible fights for or against the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And that's largely, the reason there's so much resistance here is largely because the proposed legislation would be so transformative of how we do things in this country. And by do things, I mean how we do everything. It'll become a cradle-to-grave renewing or reweaving of our so-called social safety net that has been torn at and frayed and ripped apart by decades of, among other things, expanding income inequality, stagnating wealth for the vast majority of us, depleted government resources because the tax structure has been structured to take away from the government trillions of dollars that the government is entitled to if we're going to have a government through the taxing process that no longer operates equally or equitably. And everything is capped, of course, by the worst public health crisis in over 100 years. So this is part of what the Biden administration is up against. And if you add to that the incredible ignorance of the American public, our ignorance about how things work, how they're supposed to work, and why they're not working, then we have an almost insurmountable, or the Biden administration has an almost insurmountable course to follow in order to get this done. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this pandemic loosened federal spending in this country. And the pandemic caused members of both parties to support giving our economy financial aid. And the pandemic also popped the cork on decades-old policy desires, like expanding Medicare coverage or paid family and medical leave. And these are issues that Democrats contend have proved to be necessities as we've lived through this coronavirus crisis, which we are not through as we've lived in this coronavirus crisis, even though yesterday 10 million Americans were told, well, I'm sorry, but your unemployment supplementary income is now kaput. And another 7.5 to 10 million people are soon to be told they have to vacate their apartment or their house because of delinquent rental payments or mortgage payments. But still, we're still trying, right? Heather Boucher, who's a member of Joe Biden's Council of Economic Advisors. And by the way, she's been developing economic policies for decades. But she says, quote, polls have shown for a very long time that these issues to support American families that were enacted during the pandemic were important and were popular, but all of a sudden they become not part of a nice to have sort of supplement, but a must have supplement, end quote. Now, Democrats say they're going to finance this spending with the tax increases on corporations and the ultra wealthy, and taxing wealth in ways that our taxing system has never tried before. I'll get to that in a minute. But this increase on corporations, hundreds of which do not pay a goddamn dime in taxes. But this proposed tax increase on corporations has already incited a big budget effort by these business groups to kill the entire idea. Think about that. You really have to think about that. Every time you see one of these institutional ads on television that try to show these corporations, these capitalist monsters, as being concerned about global warming, concerned about public health, concerned about energy efficiency. They are not. Capitalism is concerned about one thing: capital, or profit, period. If people die, people get sick, economies around the world collapse, tough shit. I mean, that's just what capitalism does. But anyway, Representative Jamal Bowman of New York, who's a former school teacher and a principal, he's now vice chairman of the House Education and Labor Committee. He said, quote, "We're talking about free or affordable child care where no one pays more than 7% of their income. We're talking about universal pre-K programs with 2 years of formal instruction. We're talking about 2 years of post-secondary education. This is how you build a strong nation, end quote. Why is that so hard for us Americans to comprehend and then to insist upon? And why does that idea inspire and evoke so much resistance from the wealthy in this country, from the corporate superstars of this country, from the holders of massive wealth in this country? Well, we'll get to that in a second. See, the Republicans, the Christian fascists, are already putting together their counteroffensive to this whole idea. And to them, the Democratic plans are nothing short of, ta-da, socialism. The Christian fascists say, really, honestly, truthfully, we're concerned that the plan is financially unsustainable and would undermine economic growth because it would make Americans too dependent on the government for our basic needs. And then you have someone like Representative Bruce Westerman, Republican of Arizona, a good Christian fascist, who asked last Thursday, as the House Natural Resources Committee began drafting its portion of the sprawling bill, this guy said, "What are Democrats trying to do to this country? Save it? Help it grow? Help it go forward? Help it escape the clutches of Christian fascism or authoritarianism a la Donald Orange Vomit Trump?" Does that answer your question, Mr. Westerman? And even after that horrible avalanche of socialism, income supplements and workforce training programs, including efforts to train home health care and elder care workers. Anyway, all of that would keep the government present in many adult lives. Oh, no. You mean somebody will be paying for me to learn how to be a home health care aide? Oh, that can't be. And then in old age, people would be helped by tax credits to offset the cost of elder care. And, oh no, by an expansion of Medicare to cover, oh heavens, dental, hearing, and vision services. No! Oh my God! What's going to happen to us? Well, we'll be healthier, smarter, we'll live longer, happier, more content with our lives. But the Christian fascists do not want that. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.